So I wanted to play with Dakota a little bit with some showmanship stuff just for some fun, and I thought it would be cool to, if I did show her, do some showmanship stuff just so I could take her and she doesn't have to be ridden or anything. And I just wanted to kind of play with it. And I've really never, I've had a couple of quarter horses, but not one for very long. They were all like training horses to sell later on, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to do some showmanship stuff with her. So we're just going to work on that a little bit, just staying next to me, stepping over, which looks really nice. So I'm clicking to her as she's stepping over, and then once she's nice and straight, I give her her rewards. So I'm gonna have her go forward while we're kind of in that position where she's got like her head pretty much even with my shoulder. I kind of lean back a little bit before I have her stop, and she stops really well. And there, I just gonna square her up, which she doesn't understand what to do yet, but she looks really good. We got the basics kind of. She kind of pops her shoulder out a little bit here and is stepping over across on her hind feet, um, which I should have rewarded a little bit sooner there because I'm inadvertently rewarding that instead of that first step. That first like step or two, she was actually pivoting on her hindquarters. The other two, she was actually just pivoting on her front, on her forehand. So I gotta be careful of like watching those little details. So, but yeah, we're doing a little bit of pivoting, nothing crazy, just kind of playing with it. I want to see kind of how good she is at it. Um, Kind of get her square up here. There we go. She's she goes like her default is to just stand with that one hind foot cocked. So that's better. She kind of takes some weight on her hind legs and stands up a little bit more. So I'll click and reward her for that. And then kind of work on her just standing still while I can kind of show the horse, well, to do the quartering, so that if someone did have to come and look inspect her, I can move around. And it's a good little exercise just so that she can stay there and like read my body language and she's to stand unless I ask her to do something else. So that's also just a good thing for a horse to know. And then we're going to do our pivot the other side. So kind of the same thing. She doesn't I need to be a little bit slower in asking her for those movements because she's again taking a couple good steps, which I should be clicking and rewarding. I'm waiting too long and I'm clicking rewarding like she's kind of falling onto that right shoulder kind of toward me and just pushing her neck away. And that's not the thing that I should be rewarding because that's not the best moment. I'm telling her that I like something that I don't because my timing is off. But yeah, I gotta be a little bit more careful about that. Her leading forward looks really nice. Like she already knew how to lead when I got her. She's got decent leading skills, so this translates over pretty good. There's usually like a turn at the walk, and then they usually do like a trot. So I kind of work on that. Going forward, the leading looks nice. Having her halt, that looked really nice actually. She still gets like a little too excited with the treats here. And then you will see me do a bit of retraining with that later on here, like over the winter, because I did have to work on that quite a bit, because she was just like way over threshold as far as that goes. Way too excited about the food. There, she's squared up nicely. I should have clicked and fed that because she actually looks really nice. Nice and square holding that position. Backs up decently. Good. I should click before then because I don't want her to go super, super far, but she had a couple good steps. Maybe not the straightest, but pretty good. Here I'm just pausing and waiting until she has her head straight and then giving her the reinforcement. So that's probably not the best way to do it because she's learning to put her head straight, but there's a lot of anxiety of when she's going to get the food. I could probably do that once, and then while her head is straight, I should click and rapid fire, click feed, click feed, click feed, so she knows that head position, that straight head position is what I want. So, and be a little bit more clear to her. Withholding it every time is just going to make her worse and more anxious about the food. So, that is something I had to learn. She thought walk off there instead of me pivoting around, so I'm just going to ask her to back up, and she's a little bit crooked, a little bit confused on what she thinks I want her to do. So I'm just going to have her stand. There we go. And again, I could have broken this down a much more for her, which is an ongoing theme with my beginning training with her. As I'm going, I should give her a nice cue, like if I want to call it stand or whatever I want it to call it, so that she stands still as I pivot um, around her and do my quartering for the judge, so that she has a clear cue on what it is that I want. Because right now, I did not use a clear cue, so And it's hard when you're mixing positive and negative reinforcement because with negative reinforcement, it's essentially the horse waits until you show, like, move their feet. But when you add in the positive reinforcement, you need a very clear cue for each behavior, and the horse can get very confused quickly. So that's what's happening here. I should have had a voice cue or a hand signal or something very clear for her that she needs to stand and then when she needs to go. And I didn't learn that until much later on. So, and you'll see that with Castor, like you've seen that in me teaching him to stay. I taught everyone how to stay. That's a very important part of this. But she doesn't understand right now when she's supposed to leave and when she's supposed to stay. And my body language isn't clear enough to point that out to her. So that's kind of what we're struggling with right now. So by breaking it down and by having her, so like if I want to teach her to stand with that voice cue, I could be like stand, and then I could start taking a step away or like in front of her. I can click then and then feed her, and then take a full step, click feed. Do that multiple times. Take a couple steps, and then I just build up from there. And you can see that whole process with Castor and teaching him to stay. And again, she's good with following me forward. She's pretty solid at that. And she's decent at squaring up too. She really has gotten that pretty solid already just for just barely doing it. And she's really like bending in her neck there when I ask her to back up. What you'll see later on when I use the target, she's much more focused and she can back straight up versus her just bending her neck there. But I also wasn't necessarily catching this because you can also do it with negative reinforcement here, like I'm doing. But I'm releasing at the wrong time. I'm releasing when she's bending that neck versus she's keeping it straight and taking a step out. So those are the little tiny things there that need to pay attention to that I had missed at the time. So again, you can see that head turning there instead of backing straight. I need to slow down. I need to just correct. I need to reinforce and click just those specific one little step while she's going and then build up from there. Again, I'm asking too much too quickly. So that's that's kind of an issue of mine instead of breaking it down. If you break it down and build it up, it'll go much faster. It feels like it's not, and it sounds like it's not going to do that in the beginning, but that's just not true. One step goes to two steps, goes to three steps, and that can happen in a matter of a couple minutes. So, versus me trying to do six bad steps of backup and continuing to do that, it's much better if you just break it down and build it up.